Good morning. Thank you for joining us. This service is being recorded for June 13th of 2021 here at the Pasadena Buddhist Temple. My friends are at a good distance here, Mark, Bobby, and Alan, about 40 feet away, so I am starting unmasked today. I have a mask at the podium I'll put on before I join my friends. Be careful at home. I'm going to chant Shishinrai to begin the service. Shishinrai is recalling our reliance on the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I will chant that and then move into the Juseige, which I hope you may wish to join in the chanting of. Again, Shishinrai followed by Juseige. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namita Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Shishin Kei Ilei Namo Shochiu Hu Shishin Kei Ilei Namo Shochiu Ho Shishin Kei Ilei Namo Shochiu So Busetsu, Daimuryo, Jukyo, Juseige, Gagon Cho Thegan, Kishimu Jodo, Shigan Hu Mandoku, Thehudyo Shogak, Gao Muryoko, Uindai Seishu, Utaisho Bingu, Thehudyo Shogaku, Kashijo Butendo, Myoshoto Jippo, Kukyo Mi Shomon, Thehudyo Shogak, Ryokujin Shonen, Joeshu Bongyo, Shigumu Jodo, Isho Tenninshi, Jinriki and Daiko, Ushomu Daido, Shoujo-san Kumyo, Kotai Shu Yakunan, Kaihichi Eigen, Meshi Kon Moon, Heisokusho Akudo, Tudaten Shumon, Kosojo Mandoku, Iolo Jippo, Nichigaten Shujuki, Tenko Onhugen, Ishu Kai Hodo, Koseku Dokuho, Jodai Shuchu, Teppo Shishiku, Kuyo Ithayabuten, Gusokushu Tokuhon, Ganeshten Joman, Tokui Sangayo, Nyobutmu Gechi, Tudatmi Husho, Gangaku Eiriki, Toshi Sai Shoson, Shiganya Koka, Daisen no Kando, Koku Sho Tenina, To Chinmyoke. Namandabu, 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 Namandabu. gan ni shikudoku Jodo sei itai don mo nai shin hojo on la koku. Namanda Buddhamanda Namanda 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 Buddhamanda Namo Amida Butsu Namanda Butsu Namo Amida Butsu Namanda Butsu Namanda Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu Namanda Butsu Namo Amida Butsu Namanda Butsu Namida Butsu Namanda Butsu. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom light and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Butsu. Well, again, good morning. Thank you for joining us for this service, which we are preparing to preview on June 13th of 2021. I appreciate you joining us this morning. It may not be morning where you are when you view this, but I appreciate your participation, whatever time of day, whatever time of year you viewed this service and participated with us. These services and Dharma talks can be viewed on YouTube under the heading of the Pasadena Buddhist Temple, and they will be there for some time into the future. I'm not sure for how long, but for a while. It may be that these recorded services will be around longer than I will, or maybe not. I'm not sure. So take advantage of them while you can. In any case, I look forward to seeing you all here in person one day pretty soon. I can't say at this moment when we'll be fully open, but we are working towards opening to the public, and we shall. In-person contact is important in spiritual matters. It was more than 25 years ago, I was on the Buddhist Churches of America outreach committee. How do you reach people? And one of the laypersons on the committee was very excited about all the developments in the internet and computers. This is 25 years ago. And it was lauding all the possibilities that computers and the internet were opening up for us. All three of the ministers on the committee said, I don't know. Yeah, but if it discourages people from attending the temple, it's not good. If people think they don't have to make direct contact with other human beings, it's not good. And I, always being rather blunt on these matters, I just said flat out, if what we're doing is making it possible for some guy who's isolated in his apartment with a computer not to go outside anymore, I don't want to do it. I want people to know they have to leave their apartments and step away from the computers for some things. So yes, there are possibilities as we see now, as we are seeing now. The internet does open up possibilities for communication we did not have in the past, and this is a good thing. You're watching this video, for me, is a good thing. This video being recorded by Alan Goto and being edited by Kathy Kumagai, this is a good thing for me, in my opinion. But even so, still and yet, direct person-to-person, in-person communication is very important. I hope to see you here before too long. I hope we can meet in person before too long. However, the two themes I really want to focus on today are that in this stream of Mahayana Buddhism, the Jodo Shinshu school of Mahayana Buddhism, the Jodo Shinshu style of Nembutsu Buddhism, there is an assurance that we may, and we really should feel about life after death. The assurance that everything will be all right at the end of this life is something we can, and we should feel. Secondly, there are benefits to walking the Nembutsu path even in this life. And this week, now, we get benefited even now. So if I may talk about these two things, being benefited at the moment of death and in the next life, and also receiving benefits here and now. The teaching of this school of Buddhism, so far as the matter of addressing death goes, is that we may be assured of a positive future after a single instant of saying the Nembutsu and opening our heart to this teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. The truth of that positive future for us is irreversible. And this is a teaching that's quite unique. The cause of our enlightenment is established even in the briefest moment when our hearts and minds open to the Nembutsu teaching. A split second, a split millisecond is enough. Just an instant of affirmation and making contact with the vow, with the promise of the Buddha, is all that's needed. That's somewhat unique. The fact that it is irreversible is very special. The fact that the solution to the problem of death is irreversible, that it cannot be lost by future misdeeds or ignorance. This is unique to the Mahayana Pure Land tradition. It's almost unique to our school, the Jodo Shinshu school, and the 25 or 30 million of us in this stream of Nembutsu practice. This irreversibility of the guarantee of enlightenment is a very liberal, kindly, and gentle teaching. You get the big reward for sure, no matter what. No matter what you do in the future, no matter what else happens. People hate when I quote old rock songs, but this one's just 10 years old. Neil Young's Walk With Me. The lyrics are, walk with me. I don't care, no matter what you do, just so long as you walk with me and let me walk with you, I'll never let you down. I'll never let you down no matter what you do if you just walk with me and let me walk with you. This is exactly what the Buddha is saying. Just accept my help. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking you to be a good person, to be a better person, to deserve it. The Buddha wants to shine the light on us. We just have to open our hearts for it to come in. And that opening is, as Shinran says, in the briefest instant of time. Like if an 84,000th of a second you're sincere, that's all it takes. No matter what you come to think, say, and do in the future, it is settled that you're going to be an awoken Buddha in your next life. Now, Buddhists can be this hopeful, liberal, accepting, in our view, partly because we believe in cause and effect. There is a cause, the Buddha's efforts, the Buddha's commitment, the commitment of enlightened mind that is shining upon us. And also we're able to be this optimistic because we do not believe in reward and punishment. We do not believe in judgment. We do not believe that some judge assigns us our desserts at the end, our just desserts. Fortunately, that doesn't happen. Just ask any species on this earth what human beings deserve at the end. Thank the good Lord Buddha, I'm not going to get what I deserve. If I did, I'd really be in trouble. Nobody judges us, nobody rewards us or punishes us. Awoken persons, truly spiritual sources of goodness, are forgiving and accepting. They just want to help. They just want to help us to learn how to liberate ourselves. This guarantee of enlightenment, irreversible, it's yours no matter what you say, think, or do in the future. This irreversible enlightenment is of real interest to those of us who know that we're going to die one day. Now, you would think that should be everyone, but there's that small number of people who really think that somehow technology is going to keep them alive forever, and then there's that large group of people who just don't think about it. They just don't think about it. But if you do think about death, then this is important, that this school of wisdom says just an instant, say the name, Namo Amida Butsu, think about the teaching. If at any point, for an instant, this is plausible to you, your heart opens to it, it's established. Your enlightenment is established. This will reassure those of us who know that we will die one day. However, Shinran also emphasized that there are benefits in this life. And Shinran, our denominational founder, Shinran Shonin, lived 1173 to 1264. And Shinran wrote a list of the 10 benefits which, relying on the Buddha's vow and saying the Buddha's name occasionally, even occasionally, bring in this life. He wrote this list when he was 52 years old, and he wrote the list again when he was 86. 34 years later, he wrote another book and wrote the list again. And I will read through that list and talk about it briefly. But let me tell you ahead of time that the fundamental benefit in this life of saying the Nembutsu, of believing in the promise of enlightenment for all people, is the trust, the confidence, the composure that you have in your life on the Nembutsu path. And so, if I may, on to Shinran Shonin's list of how we are benefited now in this life. And these are very spiritual things, but let me read through them. The practitioner, he or she is protected by positive spiritual personages. So if you say the Nembutsu, if you trust in the Buddha's vow, positive spiritual personages will protect you. What we're translating here as positive spiritual personages in Japanese is good gods. So the Japanese Buddhism took the Indian worldview that there are so many gods, they're all over the place, they're like cockroaches. The skies are full of gods. No single one that's absolute, but yeah, there's a lot of gods, and some of them aren't very nice. So that's why Shinran says, the good gods, the ones that are good, these kind of deities, these powerful beings, they will protect you, the good ones. That's the first benefit. The second one is being possessed of the supreme virtue. The third benefit is having one's negativity turned into wholesomeness. Fourthly, you are protected by all the Buddhas in the universe. And fifth, you are praised by all the Buddhas. It's interesting that that's important. Praised by all the Buddhas. All the Buddhas say, well, those guys, they knew what to do. They took the right path. They know what they're doing. You are protected, number 6, protected by the Buddha's spiritual light. Specifically saying, how are you protected? Gods, Buddhas protect you now, because just occasionally you say, Namo Amida Butsu, and many times you feel trusting in this promise. So the gods protect you, the Buddhas protect you, and now how do they protect you? With their spiritual light. The Buddhas shine their spiritual light upon you. The next benefit is having much joy in our hearts and minds, that at a deep level there is joy. Another benefit, acknowledging the benevolence of the Buddha and repaying it. Knowing you're benefited and trying to repay your indebtedness to the Buddha. And the last one is always practicing the great compassion. And how do you practice great compassion? Well, you try to help others, you try to do good for others, but also it also means simply saying the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. I rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu. Just saying this name is making contact with the source of limitless goodness. And this is, in itself, practicing the great compassion. So these are 10 benefits that Shinran wrote down, benefits of this path in this life, because he tells you, they tell you, the Buddha tells you, the Sutra tells you, there is this irreversible enlightenment coming your way, but that's at the end of this life. In this life, Shinran wrote these things that happen to us. We are protected by positive spiritual personages, or the good gods. We are possessed of the supreme virtue. We are entering into depths and breadths of a reality that is good. Having one's negativity turned into wholesomeness. Everything you did wrong is all right. It's part of this great ocean of light that's being taken in. It's going to be changed, transformed. We're protected by all the Buddhas in the universe from stuff. What are you protected from? I'm not sure, but you are protected. You are surrounded and protected. You are praised by all the Buddhas. That's interesting that that's important, you know. Sometimes the Buddhist teachings cater to our simple humanity. Some of you remember that I like to quote lines from movies that I always tell you, oh, don't see this movie. It's a bad movie, but I like this one scene. And contrary to Dwayne Johnson's character in Central Intelligence, in my opinion, one of the worst movies is Roadhouse. Just a terrible movie. Silly, ridiculous. They keep breaking guys' knees and then they stand up and fight again. But there's one place near the beginning of Roadhouse where the protagonist is this average-sized guy who's the bouncer for the bar. And This big guy walks up to him and says, "You don't look like much to me." And the response is, "Opinions vary." I'm going to save that line. I'll use that line one day, but opinions vary. Well, you're able to say that when you know you're praised by all the Buddhas. This guy's putting you down. Opinions vary. I am praised by all the Buddhas for walking this path. Protected and praised. Protected by the Buddha's spiritual light. This image of being surrounded by light is very important. There's something to this. It's a model. It's a little bit more than a metaphor. It's not exactly literally the way it is, but it's like you're surrounded by light. Very close analogy. Having much joy in our hearts and minds, that's somewhere under the surface. Our default personality becomes someone who's happy and positive. Doesn't mean we're happy and positive all the time. It's that aspect of ourselves that has been embraced and transformed, that's the basis. That's what's under there. When all the complaining and all the irritability goes away, I'm the guy who's really happy and grateful. That's what we're told happens. Acknowledging the benevolence of Amida Buddha and repaying it. Having the wisdom to see you are being benefited. And the 10th benefit is the 9th benefit is always practicing the great compassion, and the 10th is entering the company of the truly assured. You're one of the guys who's going to make it all the way. Again, this list of benefits that come to us comes from the Ken Jodo Shinjutsu Kyogyo Shomon Rui, popularly called the Kyogyo Shinsho. If they're going to have a popular name for it, it should be easier than the Kyogyo Shinsho. But it's actually called the Ken Jodo Shinjutsu Kyogyo Shomon Rui, and Shinran wrote that, the first draft completed when he was 52. 34 years later, he repeated this list in the Wasons, in the Koso Wasons. And I also like to read something written just a few years later. Shinran wrote this when he was 86 years old. This is from the Ichinen Tanen Moni, one of these 3 books he wrote in Japanese in his 80s. And Shinran is telling us now, in entrusting ourselves to the Tathagata's primal vow, and saying the name even once, necessarily, without seeking it, we are made to receive the supreme virtues, and without knowing it, we acquire the great and vast benefit. This is dharmicness, which one will immediately realize and in it see the various facets of enlightenment naturally. Dharmicness means not brought about in any way by the practicer's calculation and efforts. From the very beginning, one shares in the benefit that surpasses conception. It indicates the nature of naturalness. Dharmicness expresses the natural working in this life of the person who realizes Shinjin and says the name even once. And then Shinran makes a note to this term dharmicness and says, the way things are in themselves. So we are relying on reality itself is transforming us, and we are transformed at a deep level. These changes take place at a deep level. We repeat several times in this passage, without our knowing it, without our seeking it. It isn't because we practice so hard, or hope for it so hard, or work so hard, or believe so much. It's given to us. The light is pouring over all of us. It just takes someone to help us to open that heart and mind for a moment. It is the way things are in themselves, Shinran tells us. We are being told that as soon as we open our hearts and minds and our bodies to this teaching, our lives will improve due to the natural activity of the way things are in themselves. Now, whether we're looking at these benefits that we can receive in this life, or even if we're thinking about becoming Buddhas at the moment of death, both of these aspects of our being benefited by the Nembutsu teaching are carried by the Japanese terms sadamaru and ketsujo, both of which are translated settled. These are each they can be translated in different grammatical forms. So sadamaru or ketsujo means settled. It's settled, it's done, you will be a Buddha. It also means settling in. It's settling in. This is what Shinran's talking about, this light that is being shined upon us. It's settled that you're going to be a Buddha in your next life, no matter what. If you walk out the door today and say, Buddhism is a bunch of nonsense, I want nothing further to do with it. If you spend the rest of your life running down Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, saying Shinran was an idiot, this is a false teaching, you still become a Buddha when you die. The Buddha wants everybody in the club, anybody who will allow themselves to be guided in is coming in. But this settling in is this gradual transformation. And it takes place at the level that modern people call the unconscious or the preconscious. At a very deep level, we start to transform. This settles into the unconscious mind, heart, and body, and gradually we can see the changes in ourselves and others. It is settled that our last moment is becoming a Buddha. It is settling in that we have trust, confidence, composure to live this life. This does happen, and it seems to happen more often when we say the Nembutsu. So shimashou. So this morning, I'm going to cut my talk a little shorter than I might have made it, and I want to close the Dharma Message portion of this service by actually saying the Nembutsu together with you for a couple minutes, just 2 minutes, say, and use any form of Nembutsu that you choose. You can use the translation you hear me use all the time. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. You can use the most common forms, Namo Amida Butsu or Namo Amida Butsu, Kimyo Jinjipo Muge Konorai, the rapid way of saying it, Namanda Buddhamanda, Namanda 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 Buddhamanda. Any form of Nembutsu you would like. But if you would, because they all mean the same thing. They all mean, it's settled, I will be a Buddha. And it's settling in. Things are starting to get better. Things are getting better. If you will, in closing, say the Buddha's name for a couple minutes with me. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Buddhamanda, Namanda Bu, Namanda Bu, Namanda Buddhamanda, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Buddhamanda, Namanda Bu, Namanda Bu, Namanda Buddhamanda, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Kimyo Jinjipo Muge Ko Nyorai, Kimyo Jinjipo Muge Ko Nyorai, Kimyo Jinjipo Muge Ko Nyorai, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Buddhamanda, Namanda Bu, Namanda Bu, Namanda Buddhamanda, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.